Woo! Man, they do not make it easy. I'm just gonna say that, man. It is wow. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to All Knicked Up. Again, we are back. Another week, another game. I feel like every time we have a show, there's a game on. But yes, the Knicks tonight. I have to change the date on there, but the Knicks tonight defeated the Atlanta Hawks 116 to 114 down in Atlanta. Let me bring Ty in right away because it's late and we want to get this thing going. So, yes, I am back from a week off. I was working. I did make a cameo last week, but then I cut out because it was your show. I didn't want to interfere. But how you doing, man? It's good to be back.
Man, it definitely is. It's always crazy. I wonder why I put myself through this torture every week or every game. It's just ridiculously crazy.
It is, man. I got to say, this was an entertaining game, though. It was.
It definitely was.
An entertaining game to watch. It was back and forth. The Knicks went up by 13. I think that was their biggest lead. Atlanta, they don't have the best record, I don't think, right now. I'm not sure what it is, but
yeah,
they're a talented team, right? Like they have, of course, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, and Bogdanovich always kills the Knicks, and he did again tonight. He was killing them again tonight. Hunter's good. Like they have a really solid young team. But the Knicks were down RJ Barrett again. And we're gonna get into that in a little while about what's going on with him. Yeah. But they were down RJ Barrett again, and it's becoming more and more apparent this season at least that they're a completely different team when he's on the court. I feel like you see the two other stars, like they recognize he's not there this year, where I think in the past they wouldn't have. I think they press a little bit. Shout out to Manuel Quigley tonight. He had a really good game. He filled in that third star role pretty well. But yeah, man, it was, like I said, it was a fun game to watch. What were your impressions, though, Ty? What did you see tonight?
Pretty much. I mean, the Knicks have always been, from what we're noticing this year, minus RJ Barrett, it's a flip a coin night sometimes. You watch them and you can see where they could be a very dominant team, and they look like they have the game under control, and it's so fragile that they are always pushed to have to play a perfect game. No matter which way you look at it, they can show a half of dominance, like they have the Hawks, in a Draymond, I guess we can call it now. A chokehold for a little bit, and then we move on.
It used to be the Spreewell.
No, yeah, Spreewell's outdated. They don't even got those rims anymore. They just grow beards and they stand in Silicon Valley, and choke people now. But dude, man. But the Knicks are just, you don't know. You see the promise of a team that, when playing together with cohesion, can beat any team, no matter how great they are on any night. And then you get these other times where you're like, well, who the hell is these guys? Such an up and down play. But this game is like most of the games, other than the ones that we've seen where RJ Barrett has played and they've shared the rock a lot more, and they can show that they can win a game from start to finish. I forgot what the game was recently where they dominated. I think it might have been Charlotte, maybe. I can't remember. Where the Knicks actually showed their dominance over a team like we're just the better team, which they should against the lesser talented teams. The Knicks are not tier one, but they should always be in that tier two, the way that they've competed from, last season's post season. But, they give you a bubble gut. Just keep it a brick. They'll give you a bubble gut every game like this, like you don't know, they call them the cardiac kids, and I mean, it literally is that.
They so do, man. They so do. I think the game we were talking about was last week against the Spurs, actually.
Spurs, there you go. It was the Spurs. It was the Spurs.
They were dominant in that game. But yeah, I think you're right. It's, again, when you on the road in the NBA is always tough, right? It's always a tougher place to play, even though Atlanta is not historically one of those arenas.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're talent. Like I said before, they have talent. So you let a team like that hang around, You know, Trae Young is crafty. He gets to the line, and that we were seeing that at the end of this game. He was getting to the free throw line. Didn't have a great shooting performance, but he was, he was showing and getting there. Hello, Coach. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Yes. So he was getting to the line, and he can make things interesting. We saw it in the playoffs. I mean, he hasn't been that guy since.
Yeah.
It's been less efficient since, but he's still very capable. One of the better point guards in the league. I mean, he had you look up, he has 10 assists, or he had something like 16 assists or something like that. So even if he's not scoring, he's getting other guys involved.
Yeah.
And he's making sure they get the ball in good spots. And then Murray was really coming on in the fourth quarter to try to close the game. So they're a tough team, man. And this has been the Knicks have historically had problems closing.
Yeah.
And it happened again tonight. How the hell do you not get they had a 5-second violation? Like what?
Yeah.
I hate
you got to know. I turned away, just the quickest little story. I turned away to go set up so we can go on. And instinctively, something in me said, well, don't move too fast because don't go log on because something's going to happen. And it was no sooner than I said that I turned my back to turn on the computer and there's like whistle 5-second violation. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah, man. This is a good call. We're going to get into some of this because there were some things I noticed tonight. So we're going to get into it going forward. Yeah, certain things about the team and the rotation, specifically with RJ out. And then Quentin Grimes apparently hurt his hand. Didn't come back in the game. So we don't know what's going on there. But, yeah, like that was the craziest thing. I'm sitting there. I'm like, why do they make everything? Everything for them is so hard. They get nothing easy. Even when they win by a lot, I think that it's a struggle. Like I watch it, I'm like, they struggle. And I know it's because they don't have like those uber athletic players who just make the game look easy. And like it's an aesthetic thing because of the type of players we have.
Yeah.
But it's so tough to watch sometimes. I don't know. Like I was watching the game and I'm into the game and I'm trying to watch it, but towards the end, I'm like, they're gonna lose.
We were on the same page with that because the whole time it's like I've watched other games around the league, so I do realize that with the 3-point ball, there's no safe lead. Clearly, we understand these things about it. I think the thing about the Knicks, you get this Oedipus feel about it. And if people know about Oedipus, he took the pins and he stabbed his eyeballs out after a while of saying he really couldn't see even though he could see. That's what you feel like when you're watching Knicks play because you're like, there's going to be that moment where you're like, we might completely blow this. And you can't put a finger on it. It starts rolling out of control after a while. You watch one bad, like, all right, that's one turnover, 2 turnovers. So we saw like Brunson tonight at some point. He started throwing the ball. And I'm like, okay, dude, you're usually efficient. You're not the biggest turnover dude. But he kept going back and throwing the ball. He was passing across the lane. And I'm like, you have guys like DeJounte Murray, and as much as Trae Young might be not noted for his defense, he's a high IQ player.
Yeah, he is.
Kept reading the play. And I'm like, why would you continuously keep going back? Like they said, the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing, so different results. It's like the Knicks, you start watching it unravel. And I don't know if there's like a time where there should be a coach's timeout, like, oh, let us stop the bleeding. But in all fairness, even to Tom Thibodeau, there should be a player that says, hey, come over here. We got to get this straight right now. You see what's going on. You see that this is not working. Get your head in the damn game. We don't have that either. So as much as we can get on Tom, which, I mean, is fair most of the times when we do. We still got to look at the players in the eyes and say, well, you guys have been doing this longer than Tom Thibodeau has been professionally as an athlete. Where's your damn brain on some of these things? Or stop the damn bleeding instead of doing the same move. Because, I mean, there's some moves we watch and we're like, if that was me and that was my team, I don't care how much I love him. I'm pulling him to the side and I might treat him like Rudy Gobert at that point because I'm like, we cannot continue to go down this route because we have the game in hand, and to continuously do the same errors and the same mindlessness, it just baffles the hell out of me. I don't know how you fix that other than maybe having that kind of CP3 type leader on here that can say, we ain't doing that. We run a different ship here. We're not going to be mindless, lose what we need to do. We want to win the damn game, even if sometimes those games are going to be ugly. You should never look like you're not mentally thinking the game, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah, even guys who I would consider high IQ players like Josh Hart and guys who, in the past in college, I remember I've watched those guys in college, and they were very much those type players, coached by a guy who stressed fundamentals. Jay Wright was one of those guys. I mean, it's been a while since they've been in college, but still, you would think in the NBA you're just going to take that up right to another level and be more pay more attention to detail because the game is so much faster. But I don't know. There's just sometimes and I hate thinking this because I live here and I play here and the Knicks are my team. But sometimes I do wonder if the scepter of playing in New York for the media is in the back of these guys' minds. Right? Just because
it's fair.
I don't know. Again, I don't watch all the NBA like I used to when I was younger. I used to watch a lot of games. Now I pretty much watch the Knicks and maybe a couple other ones during the week. But I don't know. Like I feel like there's a lot of pressure here, and some of the guys feel it, even if they don't outwardly show they feel it. One guy who always outwardly shows his emotions, though, is Julius Randle, and I have to give him props tonight. He played pretty well for the most part. This was one of his better. It was one of his better thinking games tonight. I'll put it that way. Yeah, he definitely was. He only had one turnover. I mean, he was a plus 12 for the game. He shot 50% from the field, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. Like he was really good tonight, and one of the main reasons they won. He was excellent. This is the type of Julius Randle I think we need. This, like, if I could capture the version of him that I want, it's this version of him.
Dude, yeah.
I still cringe when he has the ball late in games, but he was good tonight. I can't really get mad at him. So I'm not going to tonight. We're going to say positive things about Julius Randle tonight on this show.
Yeah,
and I'll start with that. Any other Mitchell Robinson again?
Yeah,
Coach Sire mentioned him in the chat, and yes, he was fantastic. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Brunson doesn't throw the lob. RJ is the only one that throws the lob.
I was shocked tonight when I saw Julius actually pinpoint a lob to and I'm like, well, that is probably available every game, at least 3 to 4 times a game. And the fact that those guys, and I'm gonna nudge Brunson a little bit on this one. I mean, I like Brunson. We really don't critique him hard as far as, or I should say, tough regarding because we like him. We think he brings everything that New York needs in a point guard, or a star type player. But in saying that, still, man, that dude's weakness is exactly what we're about to bring up, which is you couldn't find an ant on the floor. You really couldn't. When it comes to, if you were dribbling, you just like, you see, it was dead ant. That's the dead ant. When it comes to Brunson, I mean, for being all those great qualities as a guard and a tough dude and gritty and grimy, and he's got a good IQ. I don't think he's a dumb player. Well, man, he cannot. Eric knows the joke always, Julius can't see. Well, Brunson has at least a cane and a CNI dog too, walking around New York, because that dude, he like goes up, and I'm like, the pass is right there, and I'm not trying to, I mean, you could see that in NBA 2K, that pass, like, you might couldn't get it past him.
Right.
He just doesn't. He's completely focused in on scoring and breaking down a defense, which he does. He does a great job at doing that. But this team needs a setup guy, and much like Coach said, this is where a guy like the guy overseas they could really use, where they're not probably bringing him over because he doesn't want to play. But Jakovitis would be the one type of guard who would be a pass first guard coming off the bench, because as much as Quickly is great at what he does, what he's bad at is the same thing Brunson's bad at. They don't see the floor well enough to involve the whole rest of the team, so the whole team can evolve. Also, that's what we're missing out of from this team is a player that can allow other guys to eat, and plus those guys also got to be able to knock down shots too. So I mean that's a qualifier as well.
Yeah, I think Hartenstein is probably their best passer. But he's not a point guard, so it's kind of tough. And he's not Jokic; he can't handle like Jokic. So
He could shoot, man. That'd be his role on his team. Absolutely.
yeah, but that's kind of what he's good at. Obviously, the defensive stuff's there and the presence he gives, but on offense, that's where he's good. He's good in the high post, finding cutters, passing the ball, getting the ball to where it needs to go. I wish they would lean on him more with that. I don't think they do it enough. I think they'd get a lot more easy baskets if they tried, but this coach again, everything has to be hard with the Knicks, right? So the coach is like easy stuff. We don't do that here. That's not our thing.
I forgot who it was the other day. I was listening to someone and they were talking about the perfection that's needed for a Tom Thibodeau team. Like they have no margin for error when this guy's coaching, and I don't. For the life of me, I mean, like we're coaches on the couch here when we sit there and talk about this stuff. But I'm just leaning on the idea that you've been in the league this long and you've won championships. I saw nothing like this when thinking back to when Boston won their title under him and Doc Rivers. I don't recall that team looking nothing like this as far as offense. Rondo couldn't shoot. He wasn't known to be a shooter, but he was a passer, clearly. He's a great defender. But the thing is that when you look at it, it's like, how did you take none of the schemes that Doc Rivers employed to make that team function? I mean, granted, they got Ray Allen. I never know what talent does. We're not talking about talent. It's the philosophy on that end of how to play, how your offensive schemes are. He's just absolutely hideous when it comes to creating space. There was one point where I looked at the game, and I know shooting – helps the spacing. But there was times where like three guys are right next to each other. It's like what like they're right crowded. I'm like, this is why you're losing the pass. Like they kept turning the ball over because I'm like, you're too damn close to each other. You're like space off, dribble. If you're gonna play a half court game, then that requires spacing, the players to move a little bit more too. Why are you crowding on one side of the court? Like, and you got three guys who don't know how to space off from one another. They're playing in a crowded space. Basketball is about spacing. That's a huge part of basketball. And I just don't know why they're not getting that. Like you're watching it, and I'm watching it, and every other fan's probably watching it that's past, 40 years of age or whatever, saying, well, what the hell is this we're doing? Because it's just crowded. It's like being in a grocery store and everybody's fighting over the same piece of damn cheese. You separate a little bit more, create that spacing, and I don't know. It's just a very weird thing. You see, like the guys like Dante, Hart, they're qualified to cut. They got IQs about the game, but you still end up finding them stuck on the same side of the damn floor in crowded spacing. I'm gotta believe it's the coach. It can't be just the players because we've seen them do that, like you said, in other places. That I've never seen an offense play like this by any other team of you. In the league?
No. Well, not since the 90s. And that's what we talk about all the time, right? We talk about how that's a problem. We talk about how the game is played nowadays. And the coach we have is stuck in that time period because he was successful with those types of teams. And that's how he got, he made his hay in the league. So that's what he goes back to. Outside of the fact that he likes, I don't know, the guy shooting threes that he likes to shoot threes has always been crazy to me, but but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, man, you're right. Like basketball is not a difficult game when you really break it down. And you're right, spacing is a huge part of it, especially in the NBA where the guys are so big and athletic. Like spacing is huge, a big part to get good shots. You need to have the floor spaced open. So they can't close out so quickly. And that's exactly what you're saying. Spacing is so important for that. But I don't know, man. It's just, like I said, it's so tough watching them because everything is just so difficult. Like they get nothing easy. This team gets nothing easy. And when they do, you're kind of like, oh my God, where did that come from? Like that sequence the other day where I think it was Dante someone passed it to Dante, who passed it to Hartenstein. He got the dunk, and I was like, that was beautiful. Like, we don't see that enough.
Probably the best play in 10 years here. In the Knicks,
Yeah.
You don't see the crisp passing. But once we go back to spacing, Dante came off of that corner three area, and Hartenstein made himself available, so that was the cut. It's like it baffles me because maybe I'm trying to recall back to the 90s, which is going back a lot further for me nowadays. But I'm like, I still don't remember the game. The Knicks were a very ugly team to watch. We know this. So back in the 90s, there was nothing cute about the game. But it still didn't look this ugly, as the Knicks can make things look ugly, because I think the teams that we have now, the guys are more talented. The Knicks don't lack talent nowadays like they might have done in the era with, say, Ewing, and it was Ewing and Starks, and you hope somebody else comes along. So I can understand you playing the more grinded out, rough and tumble game. But you have talent on the Knicks now. It's like, for them to underutilize the talent is what baffles the hell out of me. But it's the coach. That's the only person I can ever blame about it, because you got talent you can tap in, and you're utilizing them like they're not talented. And that bugs me the hell out.
I know. It's kind of annoying. It's just annoying to watch. Yeah. And I'm hoping I really hope for the day where we have a coach who's more offensive minded. But this team doesn't seem to do well when we have coaches who are offensive minded.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal is there, but they got the win tonight. They lost against Boston the other night, which, again, without RJ, was going to be tough against that team.
Absolutely.
They are just ridiculously talented. And when Jason Tatum is shooting like that,
you're done. Go home. Go home.
It's tough. It's a tough task for them, for anybody, but for them, especially when they're down one of their key players. So, but now they're 1-1 on this trip, right? I think they started Monday, and today was the next.
Yeah, it's 1-1 so far. I think they're a little bit. 4 or 5 minutes now, I think it is. So for the first
they're
time.
6-5. Yeah, yep.
Which is pretty much where the league is. That it's early. It's an early part of the season. So we can, maybe if we can survive the RJ migraine, maybe we can get back to a little bit of more winning.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that next, actually. But the next game they play is against Washington, so they're not a good team. So hopefully the Knicks can go on get a 2-game win streak on Friday. But it's Friday night Knicks, so you never know.
The pool party starts on Friday, so you never know with them. They couldn't find him in preseason? I think the game he went off.
Yeah.
Is that in the Garden or is that in DC? That's in DC. They might have a chance.
That's in DC. Yeah, they're in.
They might stand a better chance. It's just when the Garden guys come here and they want to be famous. So
that's true.
We're the kind of team that would allow a guy to go nuts from 3-point range, who has been terrible against the rest of the league. So somebody like Jordan Poole could come in and get 50 and then become a extreme headache. Look at Bogdanovich tonight. They drew up a terrible play, but before then, it's like, hey, that guy's open? Splash. That guy's open, right? Splash. He's open, splash. And it's like, how do you keep getting them open like that, and you're not checking it for this guy? You need to find him on the court.
Yeah, that's still a big problem for this team. They give up too many threes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can say it like I said last year, though, the percentage is low. Yeah, but if you're taking 80, 42% of 80 is still a problem when most teams are taking half that. Right?
Exactly.
So, but I still think that's probably their Achilles heel. Teams haven't been hitting them as much this year, not yet anyway.
Yeah.
But the games that they have, the Knicks have lost, like against Boston. That's what happened, and they lost. So, I don't know. We'll see though. But they're already listing. It's funny. I just looked at the setup for the game on Friday. They're already listing Grimes as out. So maybe something more serious there.
He probably broke something, and if they know he's out already.
I hope not.
It's not. Well, it's funny with Grimes. I was expecting, and then it's still a young season, but if he's injured, that's going to set that back a little bit further. What I was about to say now, in the fact that I was wishing more for him, especially when seeing a guy like RJ out. Quickly we know is a little up and down. You insert him into certain games, and he looks like he's Allen Iverson. Next thing he looks like he's Allen Iverson's cousin.
Right.
It's not, so it's like he's such a hit and miss player. But then I was expecting that this would be grind time. You could step into the mix and become this lethal shooter and off the bounce dude that we want you to be. I mean, we got his clock cleaned by what's that dude name? Ozier, from Atlanta. I can't think of his name. Starts with an E. I mean,
a Congo.
Congo like cleaned this clock tonight. It was like, oh, that was a hell of a block. But you would expect to see more aggressiveness from him. He does a lot of the 3-point shots, and I'm like, well, your game is more than that 3-point shot, and sometimes it's not falling with the same accuracy. It would behoove you to go off the bounce. You have the athleticism to do. You have one of the quickest first steps in the game, in my opinion.
On this team, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, by far on this team. So I would definitely like to have seen him, get a little bit more burn. Like I said, I don't know if it's the players we talk about or the coach we talk about, because I would think that this would be the time you say, hey, let's get this guy to go, get him going. Let's run plays for him, to kind of get his shot going, which will expand everything else. If he's hitting outside shots, now that you're a pump fake away from causing havoc for another team's defense. So that's the crazy part about, like, wouldn't you want to get this guy, going? And now if he does have some sort of injury, now that pace is being set back. Now he's hanging away from him to come out off an injury, find his game back again. I just don't know what they're really doing. Because, this was the guy many people were talking about, trade RJ, because this guy's that good. We keep hearing about Batman Barrett. Like he's like, like the crumbs in the corner of a plastic lunch bag. But meanwhile, these dudes that you claim was the full sandwich, we'll call it a sandwich, full sandwich. We're not even seeing these guys look half as good as even RJ when he was inefficient. See, that's the thing about it with people. When RJ was inefficient, he still looked better than what Grimes has been looking, being the guy who you claim should take his title. So let's be careful what we ask for in New York about to get rid of certain players.
Yeah, and I mean, Grimes the last 2 games has been like against Boston. Then tonight, before he got hurt, he was getting up. He's getting more volume and playing more and getting more shots up. So, I agree. It sucks. I definitely do think there's more there. I just don't know. Again, I always worry about what they're telling him, right? Like, because we know what they've told Mitch. We know what they told Obi last year. Like there's a certain role they want these guys to play, and if they like veer from that role, I feel like they get benched. So, so I don't know. It's very strange. I think you would want guys to just get better and help the team, but it's been very strange.
That is
so we'll see.
You brought that up. Now you're saying it is very strange.
Yeah, hopefully he's okay, and it's only a short, and hopefully nothing's broken and it's a bad sprain or something, and he'll be back soon. That's the hope that we have. So you brought him up, so I'm going to bring it there. And I put a question mark against this, and we were talking off air, and I told you guys that I wouldn't be surprised if it's really a concussion that he has. And he's in concussion protocol, and not that they're supposed to disclose that. You're supposed to tell. But we know how the Knicks, right? We know how the Knicks are, right? They're so secretive about everything. So if they can talk a concussion away to being migraines because it looks better, instead of, because who knows, you might have gotten it during a game and they played them the rest of the game, so now they're trying to cover themselves because they should have taken them out. Like, you don't know. But it's just very odd because I don't remember this ever being a problem before. So, and it's lasting more than 1 day. Like I've had migraines before, and it's very rare that they last more than a day or 2. So I don't know. Like it's a strange. Again, every time the Knicks have some kind of injury, I'm always like I don't know about this one. I want to investigate, but I can't, obviously. Okay, so coach says he's known to have migraines. I didn't know this. So if he is,
I didn't know about that.
Then cool. Then not cool, but cool that he's
Well, that
this
it's
is really what it is.
a recurring thing with him.
Yeah,
because
but it would not be. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not beneath the Knicks to nick things up.
Right.
Regards to, covering the things that don't matter much. That's really what the Knicks go find the most microscopic thing that no one else in the world really gives a damn about, and they go, "Let's make this news," and then we'll cover it up. We'll create this whole narrative around something nobody really gives a hit about. Most of us don't give a hit about a lot of the stuff that the Knicks cover up. Like, this cosmetically is going to ruin the franchise if this gets out, and we're like, we saw a little example of that obviously today with Mark Jackson. It's like,
we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't. I didn't care, and I think most of the crowd didn't care. So when we look at a guy like RJ, we're wondering, and thank God Coach pulled that up. You never know, because someone speculated, was his knee worse? Did he have knee issues? And it's
right.
Because he's got the lingering knee issue. I would hope that they would just be forthcoming and saying that he needs the rest of his knee. I don't know what hiding that or revealing it would do. What that's supposed to do damage? I just do think it's a little bit strange. I don't know much about migraines, but I'm going to defer to you with regards to that. I don't think I heard somebody had migraines this many days in a row. So you're and he'll probably be out against Washington, is what we're saying. So the concussion protocol, and being that we have not seen him as a Knick talk, he was held out due to migraines. We never saw that during the season, any other season about that I can recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall ever hearing that being a lingering problem or a recurring issue with RJ. So now when this gets sprung on you, you got to say, well, I never knew he had those. Not as a Knick, I've never heard no one say it. So maybe back in Duke days is what coach is referring to. But it's like this is stalling out when this guy is probably playing arguably his best basketball of his career, definitely professional career. And now all of a sudden this is being slowed down. First, the first thing I was thinking about when it first happened, I said, I wonder if he was getting traded, because I was like, you're sitting him out and he's not showing up.
Boy.
Like, was there something going on behind the scenes and we were unaware of? And were they trying to get RJ out of here? Because the migraine thing just really threw me, like I said, because I'd never heard it before. And hearing it being the Knicks, this is not beneath anything we do.
I know, that's the thing. We've been down this road before, right? Like we've heard of these injuries that pop up, and we're like, it's supposed to be a 2-week injury, and they're out for the season. Like, the Knicks are not good when it comes to this part of it, so that's why we're always skeptical when we hear anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. We're always skeptical about it. But you brought up the other topic that happened today, so let's get in it. Let's get into it. We'll get into it quickly. We're not going to spend a ton of time, right? Yeah. Yes. So Mark Jackson, as everyone knew, and a lot of people were excited about this before the season, it was announced that he would fill in for Clyde sometimes on the next broadcasts. Well, that's not happening, folks. Apparently, because of an old beef with Leon Rose, which I don't know how that even happened. And because they hired Darren Erman, is that his name? I think
I don't know his name, but that does sound
coach.
Yeah.
He apparently was filming or something. And
I think it's the Golden State thing is that Mark said he was being recorded.
Yeah.
And being
Mark said being
recordings,
Yep. And so because of the beef there, Rose said Mark Jackson is no longer allowed to broadcast Knicks games. And I'm thinking, well, was he recording all that stuff that we heard about Mark having Golden State? And I'm not talking about the locker room stuff, because players have said that happened. So I'm pretty much believing that he was he pushed his religious faith on people. And that's, whatever. that part I believe. It's the other stuff I'm talking about. You have like change of hookers and blows somewhere where
curricular payments that were being ciphered out of his wallet for the entertainment church fund.
Yes, right.
The elevator fund next week. There's the elevator fund, Marcus.
Now, if you guys know us in the group, if you do all of us in our group, we're not big fans of Mark Jackson, the announcer, anyway. So it's not a big thing for me. I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't want him to call games anyway, so who cares? But it's just another thing, like Ty was saying before, another thing that's really not that big a deal. And somehow they let it leak out and the media gets a hold of it. And it just makes them look small again, right? Like that's the thing. It makes them look really petty once again. Because it's not something that he did to the team.
Yeah.
Right? It's not something that he did to the organization. It was a personal thing that Leon Rose didn't like. And then Leon Rose is not going to speak to the media because he never does. Right? So now you just leave it open for speculation, for people to just dig deeper. And this is the stuff I mean. I sent the message to these guys when I heard the story, and I said, just when you thought the circus had left the town, here we go. Right? So, I mean, I've been vocal about how their media policy. I'm probably the most vocal one. It bothers me more than it bothers the rest of you guys, because the job of one of the things of being in sports and owning a team and being part of an organization is you have to speak to the media. That's part of it's part of what you're supposed to do, whether you like it or not. We all have love-hate relationships with the media. They serve a purpose in one end, but then in the other hand, you're like, they blow things out of proportion and make, just to get stories. And that's how we have this give and take with it. All of us people, professionally, whatever. And we live with it because it's just what we're used to.
Yeah.
But it bothers me again that this happens. We heard Leon Rose made the decision, even though he's not in charge of MSG Networks, right? But he's not going to speak on it, and we're not going to hear from him. I mean, I don't know. Are they going to make someone else go in front of the people and speak about it?
Oh, no. What they're basically going to do is ask Mike Tyson for one of his pigeons, and they're going to attach a note and hope that it lands at ESPN, and the pigeon goes like, oh, and whatever that pigeon does, do you want to answer him? See, that'll be the answer for the Knicks, because nobody would know what the hell their opinions are, their direction, anything. We know nothing. As we sit presently, and I think most Knicks fans, if they were to peel back the onion, they would start crying when they think about what our biggest angst is with this front office and this team. We have players that have been brought in. We've seen the talent level, improve. But the one thing that we've been asking and looking at, which leaves us a little befuddled, is the fact that we don't know what the direction of this team is. We have no idea what the Knicks' plans are. We only know that they've been acquiring guys on the margin. They've kept the guys that they really have drafted or prior drafted. So we know that they're into the loyalty thing about paying their players. But we don't know what the philosophy and how they're building this team. We don't know what they want to do. Do you want to be a title contender? Do you want to be competitive for several years? We at least heard when Meek Mills was in charge, we want to be competitive and be opportunistic. You knew his vision. I mean, it might have had a little fog on the eyeglasses, but we knew what Meek Mills was trying to do. He was big game hunting, and he was like, hey, we're going to be opportunistic when it presents itself to try to trade for the piece. Hey, at least we knew. Was it going to work? Probably the hell not. We know it's going to be instant failure. But we move forward with a guy like Leon Rose. We know he's a former agent. We hear all the CAA connections and all the blah, blah, blah. I get so tired of hearing that crap. The bottom line is I don't care who you know. I know that in this world they always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, that's kind of true in a lot of ways. However, if your nepotism is not helping the basketball play of this team, then what the hell are you even here for? Because once again, New York Knicks fans won a championship. we don't just want to be relevant. We want to be, before most of us die, we'd like to at least go to some sort of parade down somebody's main street that we can see that the Knicks have accomplished one damn thing since we've been, sitting here waiting for over 50 years for a title. So when you look at those things, it's like you just want him to be at the forefront of saying something. And to know that we now sit today, the thing that you wish to kind of speak about, I guess, in a sense, or send a message about, is about hiring and firing a guy we never heard speak at MSG anyway. Like we don't. I didn't even know he had the job. I didn't even know. Who else knew he was? I didn't know they were supposed to hire him. But now you're like a press release that he was fired. I was telling today. It's like, Craig told Smokey told Craig, how the hell you get fired on your day off? We didn't know he was even job. We didn't know he was even employed yet. And it's like, oh no, we let him go. He was in cubicle number 4. All of a sudden, it's like, what the helicopter is going on with the Knicks? That this became the forefront of the news release that Leon didn't like this. We don't like. You pull him to the camera. What we don't like is your asteroid not talking to Knicks fans, and instead of talking to Mike Breen. How can we get you just to say, hey, over there, we know you guys are wondering what we're trying to do. Give me a little insight. You can do actually without doing a press conference. You can do a state of the Knicks release with no Breen, nobody. Hey, let me just talk to you about what the Knicks are trying to do. You've supported us as a team, et cetera, et cetera. This is PR 101. What the hell's wrong with them? How do you have all of those people as a part of your team, and we can't get you to at least make a damn video statement? But we hear about Mark Jackson, the unhired and befiring of Mark Jackson, who nobody gave a damn about. I mean, I know people, Knicks fans, whatever. He had the nostalgia. He was drafted here. Blah, blah, blah. Rod Strickland was drafted here too. I mean, let's just keep it. He drafted the year after. You don't see nobody campaigning for Rod Strickland to be a coach who probably could be a coach. He probably should be more of a coach. He has the temperament to be a coach. But it's like, dude, nobody cared about Mark Jackson. I mean, maybe some did. I shouldn't talk for all Knicks fans, but I ain't give a damn about Mark Jackson like that. That you had to go justify you letting him go. And we never even heard him.
I know. Like, I care more about Mark Jackson, the St. John's player, than I do about his NBA career, because that's when I first started watching college basketball when he played. So that's like, I remember him and Chris Mullin and those teams at St. John's. But it's just the whole scenarios. You're right. Like, I knew they had talked about him coming on, but I didn't know anything was official. I didn't even know Gus Johnson was going to be calling tonight's game. I'm like, oh, look, Gus Johnson's on the radio, like on the TV. I had no idea. But I mean, this story is a non-story. The only thing about it, again, is we're getting a piece of news from the Knicks that they are not directly addressing themselves. It's a leak story that I'm sure they leaked. Yeah. They did it.
Yeah.
They dribbled it out to the New York Post, because the New York Post is like one step above the National Enquirer. So if you're going to do it in that kind of a paper. But and we get this news, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, did they do it today because it's game day? Like, what is I don't know. But I'm sorry, mama, that man is gone again. Hand down, man down, all that stuff. We're not going to hear it. So if anyone wanted to hear all those catchphrases, I don't know what to tell you. It's not going to be not happening.
You'll be styling and profiling with Walt for a little bit until he retires. That's what you're going to be getting.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm sure when Walt traveled. Well, you know what? I should say this, because this I do believe. I would rather hear Mark Jackson than Wally Serpiak. Sure.
Oh, hell to the year. Oh, hell. Caterpillars? Oh, hell to the year. That dude, he should be on ESPN. I don't mean that. That's not a compliment, because he's that type of annoying level that he should be on ESPN, because he's annoying. Because I don't know what ESPN hires for basketball analysis, or as I call them, analysis. They don't. He's such a homer. I mean, I love the. We're here talking about the Knicks because we love the Knicks. But is there anybody more worse of a homer than? And Wally never played here. That's what pisses me off about when listening to him. You would have thought he was drafted here, or that he spent like 4 or 5 seasons here. The way that you are, what's the word? Caping, I guess, or capping for guys like Randall. Oh, Tom Thibodeau drew up that play. On broken plays, you're giving Tom Thibodeau credit. You know, I talked about Eric today. I'm like, those were broken plays. How did you say, oh, it drew up just like Tom Thibodeau drew?
I broke it down. I said he told he told, I forget who it was, to miss the shot, to have Robinson rebound it, and pass it out to Brunson for the 3. That was designed.
Was that not like a Hannibal from 18? Who he says,
yes. I love when the plan comes together.
I love it when the plan comes together. Just like he drew. I love when the plan comes together. Come on.
Oh man.
Oh, it's just.
I had to bring it up because
he's just terrible. You're right. Marcus.
He just completely. I don't know what the infatuation is with Julius Randle with him. It's very weird. But he has one. And I'm sure maybe he has a poster of him on his wall, a fat head. I don't know.
The picture's on the wall.
I don't know what it is, but he talks about Randall like he's a A-level superstar. Like literally, like he's Jordan.
He's like New York LeBron for him, and I'm like,
I know.
Look, New York fans, we are hard on our players, and we should definitely appreciate having someone like Julius. Don't get me wrong, because I know what he brings to the table, his professionalism. He's got a clean nose. You know, he comes to work. He's given all he can give to the game in New York. You know, I will give him that much. I think the things that we want from him, other than that, mentally, he's capped out. He will never be that dude.
Right.
I respect him for what he's done since he's been here. I'm not trying to knock that portion of it. It's just if you want to get to another level, he's not that dude. And you get frustrated watching it sometimes. I mean, a lot of times, I shouldn't say sometimes, you will get frustrated, you know, trying to root for him in full with your whole heart because he just does things and you go, God, get that guy off my team. But that doesn't mean that, like, how honest I am about him, like, I'm not hitting him completely negative because I can tell you the positive things about Julius. Wally never talks about Julius in an unfavorable way to say,
sure,
you know what? You should have passed it better. Julius needs to find the cutter better. This whole thing about that, oh, he does nothing wrong. But let RJ Barrett go ahead and make a mistake. Oh, RJ's got to get better. You know, he's got to get better at this. It's like, what do you get, a script that you guys are reading? You know, but I think it is sort of, I know I was telling someone else, I was on another thread talking, and I was saying that, you know, when you do look at it, they do kind of fluff Julius because Alan Hahn did a post-game interview. Said, oh, the fans wanted to give you a hug instead of booing you. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Wait, when did this happen? I missed this one.
See that? Oh, he gave this is maddening. I was sitting there like, what are we doing now? It's like, is this what we're doing? It was a post-game MSG. And he did a little short interview post-game.
Sure, okay.
And he was like, oh, you know, Julius, I want to let you know, there was a contingency of fans who wanted to say that we should come out. Remember the Mike Vaccaro piece? That we should come out and start cheering Randall and, you know, whatever. And, you know, the guys came out supporting night. How do you feel that you were supported? And he did his whole whatever. It's like he was almost like shocked that he was doing the interview. And it's like, oh, we greatly appreciate it. I'm like, one, you don't believe none of that, what you're hearing. And you got booed because you were playing whack. Let's just put it. Nobody cares about, like I was telling people, John Starks can tell you I missed jump shots. But nobody complained about John Starks' effort. We've talked about he shouldn't have been shooting all those damn shots. And it probably was why we won a ring. But, you know, when looking at that, and that's blame to Pat Riley more than John Starks. But the point being is that this wasn't about missing shots. It's about your whack-ass effort to keep it a buck on every aspect of the game other than that. You were missing shots, but at least trying to get your rebounds, at least showing on defense, not being a damn matador. This is what was pissing Knicks fans off. That wasn't you missing shots is annoying. You missing bunnies is annoying, but RJ Barrett's missed a lot of bunnies. We see him not finish at the rim, but nobody said
Brunson too.
Brunson too. Nobody got on them like, oh, you're a terrible player. Get out of town. And many people don't. There's not a lot of RJ Barrett fans. There's probably a split down the middle of who likes RJ and believes in him, and those that don't believe in him. Whether fair or unfair. But nobody ever sat there during that time and was like, get RJ the hell out of here. We said to Julius because we've watched you not do full effort on a lot of games, check mentally out. Nobody can ever say, I don't know if RJ Barrett's into this game. Jalen Brunson, I don't know if he's not into this game. But to cushion Julius, like they're doing bad parenting, basically. Your child is misbehaving, but you endorse it to make them feel better about themselves. Like, oh, those things are saying, like, you're really not that bad. You're not that bad. No, you are, dude. You really were that bad. You have it tonight.
Wonder if it, No, I was gonna say you wonder if it's because of that. Like the guys who work for MSG Network, they might be like, well, everyone else is booing him, so maybe we should just support him, back him up, make him feel better about himself. Now, again, they work for the Knicks, right? So you also have to look at it that way.
Yep.
I know people think like some people, or they'll tell you that they don't tell us to be, soft on the team, whatever.
Yep.
I don't know if they do or they don't. All I'm saying is if someone was signing my check and I was ripping their team every time, and they started going like, I mean, hey, you want to soften it up a little bit, and that meant me eating or starving, well, I might be like, all right, I'll soften it up a little bit. Like, okay, I'll pull back. So I understand the human element of it and why they might not be as hard on him as they might be on other players, just because of the way he is. Like, we all know how he gets and how I don't want to say soft, because I don't think it's that fragile. Maybe fragile is a better term for him. Especially his ego, right? He definitely you see it during the game, like when he doesn't get a call go his way, and he's been better this year. I have to give him credit. He hasn't been as volatile on the court, but it just seems it's very, very weird how the critique goes for some guys, and then it's not the same for him. And I don't think he's at that level of player yet where you can be, like he said, he's not LeBron, he's not Durant, he's not, he's not one of the upper elite, no matter how many all NBA teams he's made. Like, he's just not that guy. But he is, I guess, for us, right? I guess that's the other way they look at it. He is for us.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about what happened. The NWA, or are we in WWE now? Because
that's the Hulk Hogan. I don't know if you know.
Yes. NWO, yes. That's what I should have put. I should have put NWO.
I don't know.
Yeah. But yes, once again, Draymond Green strikes. Now, I saw the whole thing, and I was trying to think about if he was in the right or in the wrong. Or look, if you're trying to break somebody up, there are other ways to do it.
Yes.
That's my biggest thing. Like, especially him. Like, he has a reputation. So if I was Draymond Green, I'd be grabbing him maybe by his body and pulling him back. I've been trying to divert him in other. I know he's tall. I know Rudy Gobert is tall, but I'd be trying to do everything. You do not put a guy in a chokehold headlock and you just don't do that.
No.
And it's too many times with him. And I really do think now with him, he does it on purpose. He does these specific things on purpose.
Yes.
And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it with him. Like, we were talking about it before in the group, and I was saying, like, the NBA is not like that anymore. So when he does stuff like this, it's kind of like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is not in the 90s. Yes, this is commonplace. Headlocks and elbows and all that stuff. That was part of the game.
Yeah.
So, and that happened during games. Like, there was none of this, you grab I still can't believe that they call flagrant foul if you grab a guy from going up for a layup. Like, That's a flagrant foul now. It
Yeah.
wasn't 25 years ago, 30 years ago,
That would
but
have
it
been a
is
hug.
now. Yeah, like it is now. So, and again, I understand player safety, all that crap. I get it. You don't want, but this guy continuously does this. He was suspended for 5 games, I think.
5 games, 5.
For if it were me, it would have been 25 because of
Yeah.
his history.
Yeah.
I'd be like, 5 is gonna do nothing for this dude.
No.
Nothing.
Yeah,
And I'm just
agree.
tired of it with him. Like there's the fake thug term gets thrown around a lot, and I mean, I don't think it's totally scripted for him or like totally an act, because I do think, I mean, just the way he talks, I think he is an opinionated guy. He he's not afraid to get down and dirty. I definitely say that. I mean, but in the past, he's given guys nut shots and like all this stuff with him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did you think? Did you think the suspension was light?
I thought it was way too light. I thought he should have been suspended indefinitely, and then I thought he should have. I think that he should have also had to seek counseling. I think they should make sure. I mean, when we saw Kyrie Irving get suspended for sharing a book, for a long period of time, and they made him go through therapy and whatever, jump through the hoops and say, we don't know if you should be allowed back in the game because you had an opinion. You had an opinion. Your opinion got him suspended from the league, which, hey, rules are rules, whatever they have in their policies, their CBA agreements, hey, it is what it is. There's certain policies. I'm just trying to figure out where the Chokomofo out policy is in the CBA. And where did this land? And for point of reference, I'm 50. I grew up in a whole different NBA, a whole different life of what we have now as people. So, yeah, there was the punch somebody directly in their mouth, scenario growing up when I grew up. You didn't do all the pulling out guns and all that stuff. You got mashed in your mouth. Somebody would actually approach you, not via text, not by you threats, no cyber bullying. Your bully went to school with you and took your friggin' lunch. That's what your bully probably sat next to you on the bus too. This is kind of whatever. And your bully probably looked like he or she should have been 3 grades ahead of you. That's why they were bullies. So they look like the teacher kept them back for 4 years, and you're like, dang, he in kindergarten and he's 7 foot tall. Yeah, those were the kind of bullies we had to deal with growing up. So it's a whole different trust. Most of y'all wouldn't have survived when I think about it now. So in looking at that, I grew up in that era, so I like the toughness of basketball. We grew up in the 90s Knicks. I grew up in the 80s Celtics. Pistons. They were some rough riders. These were grown ass men playing basketball. No kids. These were no high school. Even Moses Malone came directly out of high school, and he looked like he was 35 when he came out of high school. The dude was friggin' built like a damn tank. This is not for lightweights. We didn't grow up in this cuddle soft world that we see now. And I say that all to say, what Draymond Green did to Rudy Gobert was just disgusting. And the reason why it was so disgusting, it was because of how it was done. There was a time like we saw when Dr. J was in the Garden, Boston Garden, and he two-pieced up Larry Bird. They're talking, and it was but it was face-to-face when he hit Larry.
Right.
We saw most of the contact that you saw, the ruggedness. I likened back. I said earlier today about Derek Harper, or last night I think actually was about the scuffle. We saw him body slam one of the Chicago Bulls. This was what was going on in that era of basketball. So it's not like, oh God, we're becoming these people that are sensitive about things. It's a way and a manner that in which it's done. It's like, be honorable if you're going to be one of those tough guys. And what I mean by honorable is do it in somebody's face, not behind their back. To look at watching how Gobert's thing unfolded, you had the back and forth with Klay Thompson, and I don't know who the other guy was on Minnesota. They both got into the little scuffle.
Daniels? Was it Jaden Daniels?
I think it was Jaden Daniels. I mean, they pulled each other's jersey.
Right.
Hardly anything. There's not a punch being thrown. That's what I was like about. They said, "Oh, the NBA is going." Look, those guys were hugging. Trust and believe. We come from an era where they would have mashed you in your mouth. People know my favorite Mike Tyson quote is, "Everybody's got to play until you get punched in the mouth." That he comes from our era. That's how we think. So looking at that, I'm like, these guys are just pulling on each other's jersey, like, "Oh, stop it!" That was an "Oh, stop it." Guys, cut it out.
Yeah.
You're around too much. You're rough housing. And then you see Gobert just say he grabbed him and was like, "Let's not let this get further." And to know
Kerr said that Daniels had his hand around Clay's neck. I didn't see that.
Kerr needs to sit down. You damn dude. Just say that I'm trying not to get my dude suspended. You're your players. Hey, a man thing would have been a real man's thing would have been like, "Hey, this goes on in the game. Sometimes it gets out of control. Both players had an issue.
Yep.
I'll let the NBA handle whatever went on." Because that's fact. That's the fact of what happened. To act like Daniels was able to show Clay's jersey was pulled down.
Yes, it was.
And they were both tangled up. So I'm going to show they was in a little cat fight before they got to the point where Gobert grabbed Clay. Usually what's happened, they grabbed the nearest person to kind of like say, "Hey, let's break this up."
Yeah.
The Draymond behind him.
Yes, he did.
And you decide to not grab him by the shoulder. You went for his neck, to me, implied, and then watching him gasp for air. That to me was one of the scarier moments I saw in sports, unless you're doing, because even if you was fighting in the UFC, if they saw that you're getting choked out, they would tap and tell you to stop because you can kill somebody. To watch what he did and how it unfolded, he meant to do that. See, that was the thing. He was waiting for the opportunity to do that to Gobert. He had something against him. And he's like, "Now I'm going to get you. And I'm going to do this, and then I can justify it as breaking up some sort of fight." That's all that was, because you can see he's talking to him. And as he's strangling him, he's talking to him some nasty stuff to him. Like, "Oh, you thought blah, 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 blah." That was personal. And you know what? If you're going to make that personal, then you need to go in the locker room face to face as a man and say, "I don't like you. I don't like you. And I'm not going to use a cheap shot." And that's exactly what it was. He nutmegged LeBron the same way. It's still a cheap shot. The kicking, the nutmegs he's done beforehand with these killing kicks. These are intentional moves. That's why it should have been indefinitely suspended, because you're not doing, I don't know, you're not being an OK Corral. Meet me with your gun, I meet with yours, and we do 10 paces and turn around, whoever fires, that you're just done. Be a man if you're going to do it. Don't do all that chirping. He tried it with Ant-Man the other night. And Ant-Man, it didn't definitely work in his favor then, because Ant-Man was like, "I'm going to go get these buckets. And I don't care about, blah, blah, blah." He said more than that. They showed the soundbite. But it was just him going, "Oh, what you going to do about it?"
Right.
What you going to do? Dude, you're in the NBA. What are you talking about? What are you going to do about it? This is not defense. This is just, you're not out here. I think what gets mixed up a little bit is that people make it like he's being Dennis Rodman. And anybody who's watched Rodman, no. Rodman wasn't the tough guy. Rodman was an agitator. And Rodman was a psychological player. And he got everybody, everybody's skin, probably other than maybe Michael Jordan. He gave Scottie Pippen the migraines that RJ Barrett has, literally from playing. So that guy just disgusts me every time I watch him, because you're really only in the league because your friend is on the team now. Because literally Steph Curry is who's endorsing Draymond Green. I don't know if they're besties on the team or whatever, but any other team is getting rid of this dude, because he does provide a certain aspect for that team in particular, but he can never demand or get a contract somewhere else that's worth that, because he's not that dude when you look at it. And he's cost Curry some championships.
Yeah, that one against the LeBron when Cleveland came back.
The Cleveland one? The Jordan Poole, they were great before he punched Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole ain't been the same either. I mean, literally, he's a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in a lot of ways. But you know,
yeah, but I mean, like you said, but he was right. Like Jordan Poole was right? Like when you look back at that whole situation now, you know. So the thing about Draymond Green is, I'll say this: I watched him at Michigan State when he's in college, and he was definitely a feel-good story. Second round pick, wasn't a first round pick. He became the player he's become in the NBA. And I mean, good passer. At one time was an excellent defender. He's still a good defender, nowhere near what he was before because he's not as quick as he used to be. But he's a utility player who became one of the better defensive players in the league. Right? That's how I look at him. And it doesn't seem like a bad guy when you hear him talk. Very engaging. Very, got a good personality. But then he does stuff like this, and I'm just sitting there I'm like, dude, you don't need this. You don't need to do this. Like, you've accomplished so much more than anyone would have thought you would have accomplished to this point. Like, are you really just doing this to try to hang on, or like, what is? I don't understand what your end game is here, because if you became the bad guy and now you feel like, well, that's what I have to do all the time, then that's just sad. Like, and it doesn't come across well at all. I know he's good in the community. I know he does a lot of charity work. I know all that stuff surrounding him outside of basketball. But man, you just diminish it every time you do something like this.
Yeah. Like you want to celebrate guys like this, the underdog stories. And I think what we're seeing is sort of almost like what we see with Kyrie to a degree. Kyrie's noted more now for being disengaged and being kind of a weirdo, if you want to say it, and aloof, and not noted for that shot, that made him more the aloof and the distant person.
Right. Yeah.
It's like where he should have been more celebrated as being this clutch player that really was the ones that he's the reason Cleveland has the ring. I know LeBron, obviously the better player, but he's not. If you don't hit that shot, it's over. You're not winning that. So in looking at that, you're noted more for these kind of antics than you are for your success story on the court, and I think that's what I don't get. I don't get the end game with it, because it's a difference if you're like in a game. You're in a heated title game or whatever, or a title series. They're pushing you around as a team, and you say, hey, but let me let you know we ain't soft. So I'm going to go out. I'm not going to get a flavoring, but I'm going to let you know we're not soft, that you're not going to push us around. He has every right to have that kind of, tenacity about his game, or snarl, or go, whatever. He has a right to defend his territory if he wants to let guys know you're not coming in here with that. But it's like, this is not about even basketball anymore. This is about you being violent for no reason. Like, this is you losing, your noodle to prove a point. Like, oh, well, I can beat you up. This is who he is. I can beat you up. I can beat you up. I can beat you up, and you ain't gonna do nothing about it because y'all soft. Let me tell you, I wish he would have taken that back to when in the 80s and the 90s, because he would have not been nowhere. He wouldn't have been in the league. Second of all, the toughness that he's trying to exhibit, there was a lot of them dudes. There was some real ones, as they say. When you had you had some real ones that would have put that little boy in his place and not allowed him to go around, because back then they were going to punch you back or went into your locker room and got you. I think the thing to me that kind of sucks is that Rudy Gobert's team was soft, because his teammates, watching him get choked, I think was one of the worst things, because it would have been nothing for you to pull him off of your dude when you see him clearly struggling to even catch his breath. That would have never, I don't know if Cat was behind him or whoever was behind him, but when looking at the footage, I'm like, your dude is getting choked. I wouldn't watch a stranger get choked, let alone somebody I go in the locker room every night with. I was like, you guys should have at least done something different. I think nobody would have felt bad if you've done it because you would have definitely said I was protecting my teammate. And I just think that's the egregious part. Gobert does a lot for that team. They're playing very well now. Minnesota, he's a big part of why they're playing good. He's back to that dude. But he should never feel happy about going in the locker room talking about we're in a war. Because they were like, your own war. You by yourself.
I don't know. I don't know how liked he is. That's the thing. Yeah, see, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much he's liked in that locker room.
I agree with you.
And especially since everything happened with COVID. Remember, he was the one who coughed on the microphone and all that. Like, I think he's a different dude too.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a very liked player. So, they were probably like, "Oops," sorry, like no ass anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they didn't really care what happened to him. I mean, and
I know.
if I'm him, I'm readjusting my life too because I'm like, well, why would you guys let me die? And they didn't want to give me a roll of lifesavers, let alone a real lifesaver. They was like, well, let Frenchie eat his baguette and choke on it. They didn't give a damn about Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I remember that. That's a good call.
He did. And I'm not sure he rubs people the wrong way. I just think, like I said, this whole thing with Draymond, I believe it's personal. I think he doesn't like him. It's just,
sure.
It's just a way of doing it. I just didn't like that aspect of it. It's like, honestly, I know people might take it light and it can be a lot of jokes said about it, but he could have killed him. You could see he was gasping for air.
Yeah, his face was like.
Yeah, he was vulnerable. He was vulnerable because when you get around this, you can crush the trachea. It's not like you got a whole bunch of neck meat here, and he's a skinny NBA player too. It's like he has a football neck or something. He looking like he's from the R&B group Full Force, and he's got this thick neck or something. With all those old heads, he's not built like that, dude. It's like, come on. So it's like you got this dude, and he's got him vulnerable. I didn't like that because it just reminded me of seeing people when they're most vulnerable and not able to defend themselves. And you see that. That's no place in the NBA for that. If you want to go in the locker room and box, go in the locker room. But you got kids in the stands seeing that stuff, and now it's getting replayed. God forbid, I feel bad for Rudy Gobert's mom having to watch that because could you imagine your son's out on the court and he's supposed to be playing basketball, and then meanwhile he's getting horse tackled and choked out? I mean, it's a scary looking thing, man. I felt bad for his mom in that case because I'm like, dude, you got somebody's child still at the end of the day in your life on TV and she's watching that. Man, you ain't got no respect for yourself or the game. Clearly, he should. I'm telling you, 5 games. I would have spent him indefinitely.
Yeah,
because we've seen Ja Morant right now is on a 25-game suspension. Because he showed a gun. There's footage of Draymond Green constantly doing something violent.
Right.
And he's like, give him 5.
His career, yeah. His whole career.
Yeah, there's a pattern.
There's a pattern, yeah. So he should. Well, the more of the story is next time it happens, be like Melo and go out after the game onto the bus of the team, and then you go after him.
Yeah. Melo was like, oh, you think that? See, Melo's about that life. Melo's like, oh, you thought that was going to be on the court.
Yeah.
He's like, we might end up in court, but it's not going to be on my court because I'm coming out and see if you really that dude. Yeah. Those were real ones. Real ones. I always tell people, the real thugs don't announce it. They just punch you in the mouth. And they're usually the quiet types. They come in there and you're like, dang, somebody got laid out. And that was the thug in them. Not these dudes is coming out Twitter fingers and sneaking dudes. That ain't how it worked, man.
Man. It's so funny. It's just weird. Like, because you said the era we grew up in was so much more physical than the game now, and we saw so much worse that didn't get called as flagrants, and now they like it's half that, and they get called a flagrant, and it's just so bad. But yeah, there's no place for what he did, and you're right. If you're gonna do something with somebody like that, just do it face to face. Don't come up behind them and grab. It was so weak. But again, like we said, it's a pattern with him, right? This is something that he does. There's just no place for it. I'm tired of it. Maybe because I'm too old now. I don't want to see this stuff. I just want to talk. I just want the game. Let's play basketball and leave all that other stuff behind. But it happens, and like we said, with this guy especially, it happens.
Yeah,
way too frequently.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, like I said, there's a level of physicality that I wish the game did bring back, especially on defense. But there's no need for violence to be the defense. Like
you're right.
The deep shots and I mean, I just recall seeing guys get yanked out of the damn sky, literally, and thrown down to the ground, and you still have more integrity than what you see when somebody come behind and pull. What he said, David Stern. Yes.
I said 25, right? That's what I said.
Yeah. Rest in peace to David Stern, but let me tell you, he was not perfect. But what Silver's done with the league, he definitely, for all those years of standing next to David Stern, he missed the part about keeping the game respectful and players respecting the game at the end of the day. Because Stern was not about having that, because you hear Melo talk about it, you hear Ron Artest. They said when you got a call from him, you basically went in there with a pamper because you didn't know what was going to happen. And you hear even Sheed Wallace in his open mic stuff talk about how David Stern, he knew David never liked him. He's not even speaking to me when he comes in here. So that's a good interview. I don't know if you see it, but it's a very good interview.
I haven't, but I should.
Yeah, because it's Sheed just being very forthcoming about the league. But Stern had that way about saying, this is my league. This is not your players' league. This is our league. The owners own the league, and you're going to adhere to a certain amount of rules. So the stuff that we're seeing now, I think the game has been mucked up to look like a clown show, as opposed to looking like a big sport league. It doesn't look like a sports league anymore.
Yeah, I would love to have seen Stern navigate this era. That's all I would love to have seen. Like what it would have been like with him as commissioner nowadays, with the way players are and with the power players have now.
Yeah.
When he took over the league, he had to save the league. The league was in bad shape.
Yeah.
So he definitely saved it. Obviously, Jordan was a huge part of that, and the globalization. But I would love to have seen now that the game is at this stature that it's at, and is such a cultural phenomenon in the NBA. Like it touches all different parts of life.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have seen how he would have handled this era of player. It would have been interesting. It would have been interesting psychological and sociological study to see see how David Stern would have handled this. Because he was no nonsense. That was it. Like his word was law, and that's it. You do what he says, and you're right. Every player will tell you that. I mean, he made Michael Jordan basically retire for 2 years.
People don't want to know that, but that's really what went on. He pushed them out the door and said, "You got to take a break from all these antics." I think I do wonder, that would have been pretty interesting to see him in this LeBron era. Does LeBron become LeBron under David Stern as he did under Adam Silver? Because this whole moving around and player empowerment is what has allowed LeBron to really prosper his career, forming super teams, pushing the boundaries of saying basically he has been half owner of all the franchises outside of probably Miami. And while he left, he's been invested. Basically, he's the GM of all these teams. He's been outside of Riley, which we know Riley was in. Pat Riley's not letting his mama come in and tell him what to do, let alone LeBron James coming in and telling. That's why he pretty much, we believe, left Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Stern pretty much put Dolan on the sideline after everything with Isaiah Thomas, and then they had the Knicks. He had the Knicks hire Donnie Walsh. That was all Stern doing behind the scenes.
That's all Stern.
That was all. Yeah, man.
Stern's favorite team growing up was the Knicks too, so that was even more so. Like he's like, you're ruining. He did. I mean, think about it. He made Donnie. He said, "You're gonna hire this dude, and you're gonna get the hell out of the way." And I think, was it under his watch that they got rid of what's his name in LA? The Clippers on
Sterling.
Was Sterling with on the, that might have been Silver.
That was Silver, yeah.
That was Silver.
Stern stepped down in 2012, so he was commissioner till 2012. But most people will tell you that his day-to-day duties ended probably around 2008ish or so, and that's when Silver started to handle more of the day-to-day stuff that was going on. So, yeah, it's my friend Kristen worked for the NBA for a while, so she used to tell me little things here and there, and that was one of the things she told me that. But she used to talk about him glowingly, like how awesome Stern was. She's like, he's tough, but he's very fair, very fair guy. So, yep, it'd be interesting, and I hope we don't have any more of these incidents. For me, I just know we're going to, but I hope we don't. So we'll see what happens. But we're at the end of this one.
Yes, sir.
It's getting late. But it's always better to have the show after a win. So at least we got that tonight. At least we got a win. All right, Ty. Tell them about you.
Well, when I'm not soliciting to get some medicine for my boy RJ, shout out to Bad Broadway Barrett. Get well soon, brother. We need you desperately in the Nick Ewing. But you guys can find me at Genius Scribble on X Gonna Give It To You channel. You can find me also at All Nicked Up on our Facebook page. Come share, like, join us, converse with us. We're here for everything.
Yes, we want more traffic over there, guys. So if you're paying attention, interact with us over there, send us messages. You could do all that stuff right from the page. Definitely want more people interacting with us there. It's a good way for us to get conversation going and talk about the team. And again, for you guys to give us ideas. If there's something you want us to talk about, discuss, try and put together some kind of a retrospective show or something about the team. We've all been fans long enough here I think we could pull something together. So let us know what you're doing over there. Or you guys can hit me directly. You see all my information right. I do this all the time. Right here. So at finally33, that's me. Hit me up directly at all nicked up. All_nicked_up is the show account. So that's where you can find all the information that I talk about regarding the show, the Knicks. I try and do on my basketball talk on that account. Sometimes I'm not. I think I am, and I look and I'm like, damn it, I meant to do this from the show account. So I'll retweet it or whatever. But definitely check us out over there. And if you're interested in pop culture, I do a show called Straight Outta Gotham at straight_O_G is the handle there. We talk about movies, comic book movies, most likely, television shows. By the way, watch Loki season 2. It was very good. If you haven't, horror, all that stuff. We talk about it over there. So check out Straight Outta Gotham. You can find Straight Outta Gotham everywhere you listen to podcasts. So Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts and iTunes, all over there. Check me and my boy Pete out. We love doing that show. The show's fun as well. But that's going to put a wrap on this one. So for Ty, I'm Eric. Joe, you're on vacation. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Oh, shout out to the newlyweds too. The soon to be newlyweds, John.
Yes. Our former co-host John got engaged, so shout out to him and his fiance Lori. Congratulations. Many years of health and happiness to you both. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So we're out. Talk to you later. You're watching All Nicked Up. See you next time.